guys, this is Wayne Salter. I'm a personal trainer and I've been doing it for a total of about 20 years. And I've seen a lot of people do the push-ups. And by the end of this video, I want to make sure that you know how to properly do the push-up, correct any mistakes that you may be doing with the push-up, and just to do it correctly. It's a great exercise if done correctly for the chest, the front of the shoulders, the triceps, and even a great core exercise. But I've seen a lot of people do the exercise wrong, and unfortunately, if you do it wrong too long, you can cause yourself some injuries, and you don't want that to happen. So let's talk about it. So the important thing is proper shoulder alignment and your hands and your arms. So at the bottom of the push-up, the imaginary line should be across your chest, and your upper arm should be about 45 degrees away from your body. Now this is for most people. This is the proper alignment and the strongest, safest position for your shoulders to be in. And as you push, you want your elbow pits pointed this way. So the elbow pit pointed this way, because if my elbow pit is that way, my elbow is going to bend the complete opposite direction, and that's going to put it 45 degrees from my body. My elbow pits are pointed this way, there. So in order for that to happen, I don't need to be flared out like this. I've seen this a lot. At the bottom of the push-up, people's arms are straight out to the side, and the imaginary line between their hands is across their shoulders. Their shoulders are up around their ears, and that's not a very safe position for you to be in. It's very dangerous for the shoulders. So, shoulders down away from your ears. So from the floor, shoulders down away from your ears. And this is also true for the bench press, whether you're doing a barbell or dumbbell bench press. Chest out, shoulder blades together, shoulders down from your ears. Now your shoulders are packed into your torso. That's the safest, strongest place for them to be. So at the bottom, the imaginary line is across my chest. As I'm pushing, if I'm on the bar, then I'm pretending I'm trying to break this bar this way. If I'm acting like I'm turning my arms and trying to break the bar, then that's twisting my shoulders down into my torso, keeping them locked down in there, and the elbow pits are pointed where they need to be, right? And the same thing on the floor. If you pretend as you're pushing, you're trying to corkscrew your hands into the floor, that's going to let you also use some lat muscles, because you're twisting, pushing down into the floor as you're doing the push-up. This is going to be the safest way for you to do the push-up. Shoulders down from your ears. I'll say it again. Chest out, shoulder blades together, pushing down and away. I'll show you on the floor. So at the bottom, the imaginary line is across my chest. I'm going to corkscrew my hands into the floor. Now you're not going to actually see them move, but I corkscrew my hands into the floor and then push up, down and up. So as I'm pushing, I'm trying to twist them into the floor. I think I've said that enough. All right. Now, also when it comes to push-ups, especially women, I've heard a lot of women say that they just can't do the push-up, and then they try to do it on their knees. So I've seen all sorts of stuff, and I'm not making fun of anybody, but I've seen this a lot. So down on the knees, like this, okay? This is not a push-up, and even this. Now this may be making those muscles stronger, but you're not gonna get stronger to do the push-up. And let me explain why. Because a good push-up starts with a high plank. So I'm in a high plank, and if I'm constantly practicing the push-up like this, even if I have the proper shoulder alignment and I'm doing this part correctly, I'm not making my core stronger if I'm doing this on my knees. So let me explain something that you can do. Now, if you haven't seen this move before, this is called the Cobra in yoga. And if this is safe in yoga, if you don't have any back injuries and you can safely do this, then it can also be safe for the push-up. So if you go all the way down and you got everything else correct, shoulders down from your ears, corkscrewing your hands into the floor, if you peel yourself off the floor and then you have to come up to a Cobra, to a high plank, and then you peel yourself back down, peel yourself off the floor, okay? If you keep doing that and you try to strengthen your core while you're doing that, eventually you'll get less and less peeling yourself off the floor, and you'll be able to hold your body in a more rigid plank form. So starting from the top, if you start, this is another way to practice it. If you start from the top in a high plank. Lower yourself as far as you can. And then maybe you can't hold it anymore, then you collapse on the floor. Peel yourself off the floor, come to a high plank, come down as low and slow as you can, keeping your shoulders down from your ears, still corkscrewing my hands into the floor as long as you can, and eventually you'll be able to hold that plank closer and closer to the floor, and then you'll be able to push yourself off the floor in the plank position, because that's what a good push-up is. It's just a good plank with a push. Okay, so I hope this helps. Once again, keeping your shoulders down from your ears, corkscrewing your hands, using your chest muscles and your lat muscles, and this is the right way to do it. If you find yourself at the bottom and your hands, your elbows are flared out and the imaginary line is across your shoulders, this is not a very safe position and it may even hurt. There's a couple of other pointers about the proper distance and where your elbows should be. So the neutral grip, there's a lot of different whips and grips you can do for the push-up, but the most common is the neutral grip, a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. So at the bottom, maybe if you can touch your torso with your shoulders. Okay, also the elbows are basically on top of the wrist. So if all the way down at the bottom, your wrist are lined up under your elbows, that's about the proper distance for this to be. Now, of course, there's the closer grip push-up or diamond push-ups like this. And for those, the elbow should be tucked even closer to the body. And the more your elbow bends, the more you're working your tricep. So sometimes this is called a tricep push-up because you're using a lot more tricep than you would in the neutral grip here. And I've seen some people do a wider grip, and I don't think that's really the safest position for your shoulders to be in. But if you do go out a little wider, then you probably need to slowly keep turning your fingers out. The wider you go, the more your fingers need to be turned out. So if I'm a little wider than shoulder width apart, I may need to turn my fingers out and be conscious to keep my shoulders down away from my ears, because it would be really awkward to be wider and keep my fingers pointed straight ahead. That's going to be really hard to keep my shoulders down from your ears. Okay, so the wider you go, the more you need to turn out your fingers, and the closer you go, the more you need to tuck in your elbows closer to your body. But the neutral grip should be right about here, a little bit wider and shoulder width apart, and your elbows stacked on top of your shoulders. Well, I'm sorry, your elbows stacked on top of your wrist at the bottom. And one more point about the proper plank position, because a proper push-up begins with a proper plank. So at the top of the plank, at the top of the push-up, if I squeeze my legs and squeeze my glutes, you're going to feel a lot stronger in the push-up, and it's going to be easier to keep that proper plank form if you squeeze your legs and squeeze your butt to have that really strong plank, and then you'll have a really strong push-up. If you don't know if you're doing this correctly, then let me know. Contact me, send me a video, let's talk about it. Let's make sure you're doing the push-up correctly so you can strengthen your core, strengthen your chest, shoulder, and back muscles, and most of all, that you don't hurt yourself. So that's it, the proper way to do a push-up.